The HOA war. I always thought moving to Willow Creek Heights would be the perfect next step in my career. The neighborhood was pristine, with manicured lawns, matching mailboxes, and not a basketball hoop in sight. What I failed to realize, however, was that this perfection came at a cost. A cost named Vivian Hart, the president of our homeowners association. From the moment I moved in, Vivian made it crystal clear that she considered herself the unofficial mayor, judge, and sheriff of our little community. "Welcome to Willow Creek Heights," she had said with a tight, almost forced smile that first day, clipboard in hand. "I'm Vivian Hart, HOA president. You'll need to review the community guidelines immediately. There are 137 rules, and I personally enforce every single one." She handed me a binder that seemed to weigh more than my entire laptop. Little did I know, that binder would become the battleground for the neighborhood war that was about to unfold. The trouble began innocently enough. I work in information technology and often work from home. Last summer, I decided to upgrade my home office, which included installing a small satellite dish for better internet connectivity. According to the HOA bylaws, I submitted the proper paperwork, including detailed diagrams of where the dish would be placed on my roof barely visible from the street and painted to match the tiles. 3 days after the installation, I heard a sharp knock at my door. When I opened it, I found Vivian standing there, her platinum blonde bob immobile despite the gentle breeze, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. "That satellite dish is a violation," she declared, pointing dramatically toward my roof as if she were identifying a criminal on the run. "It's an eyesore and must be removed within 24 hours. I took a deep breath and forced myself to remain calm, though my patience was already starting to fray. "Actually, Vivian, I submitted the paperwork last month and received approval. I have the documentation right here." I reached for the folder I'd begun keeping by the door specifically for these types of interactions. Her eyes narrowed as she snatched the papers from my hand. "This approval is conditional," she said dismissively, waving her hand. "The board has reconsidered. The dish disrupts the aesthetic harmony of the community." I couldn't help but notice that her house, just 3 doors down, had a similar dish partially hidden behind her chimney. "The Federal Communications Commission protects my right to install this equipment," I explained, maintaining my composure. "The HOA already approved it. It's staying where it is." I could see the color rising in her cheeks as I gently took back my paperwork and closed the door. That exchange, I would later realize, was just the opening salvo in Vivian's personal vendetta against me. Over the next few weeks, I received violation notices for everything imaginable. My grass was 0.4 inches too high. My garbage can remain on the curb for 15 minutes after collection. My car had been parked in my driveway for more than 8 consecutive hours. Each notice came with a potential fine, and each one was signed with Vivian's flourishing signature and a smiley face that somehow seemed more threatening than friendly. I contested every violation with photographic evidence and timestamps, copying the entire HOA board on my responses. Soon, other board members began to express their frustration with these petty complaints. "We have more important matters to discuss than the position of Mr. Carson's garbage cans," one board member wrote in an email that was accidentally copied to all residents. Vivian's response was swift and venomous, suggesting that certain board members weren't taking their responsibilities seriously enough. The situation escalated further when I decided to install security cameras around my property. There had been reports of package thefts in nearby neighborhoods, and as someone who frequently receives expensive tech equipment for work, I wanted to take precautions. Again, I submitted the proper paperwork, including diagrams of the camera placements, and received approval from the HOA Architectural Committee, a committee that notably did not include Vivian. 2 days after the installation, I returned home from grocery shopping to find Vivian in my front yard with a tape measure, examining the exact distance from my security camera to the property line. "These cameras are surveilling public areas and neighboring properties," she said accusingly as I approached with my arms full of groceries. "That's an invasion of privacy and against HOA regulations." I set my groceries down on the porch and crossed my arms. The cameras are aimed exclusively at my property, Vivian. They don't capture any public spaces or neighboring yards. The architectural committee approved them last week. I told her, pulling out my phone to show her the approval email. Her lips formed a tight line. I'm overriding their decision. Those cameras come down by tomorrow morning, or you'll be fined $500 per day. She turned on her heel in a huff, nearly tripping over the sprinkler head in her haste to leave my lawn. That evening, I reviewed the footage from my cameras and noticed something strange. At approximately 3 p.m., while I was still at the store, a figure had approached my satellite dish with what appeared to be a spray can. Upon zooming in, I was shocked to see that it was Vivian herself, attempting to spray paint my satellite dish black, presumably to claim it was an unapproved color. Fortunately, she hadn't been able to reach it without a ladder. I sent the footage to the HOA board, along with a polite but firm email explaining that I was being harassed by their president and would appreciate their intervention. The response was disappointing but unsurprising. They suggested we work it out as neighbors and reminded me that we're all part of the same community. It was clear that, despite their private frustrations with Vivian, they weren't willing to confront her publicly.